My name is Harrison. And while I was driving away from William's house, a man named Benjamin suddenly pulled out in front of my car on the highway. I slammed on the brakes as soon as I noticed it. Otherwise, I'm not sure what would have occurred. He appeared to be experiencing a tremendous deal of shock when I first saw him. And when I asked him what was wrong, he informed me what happened to his wife and son. As you already know after watching the second episode, following the priest's revelation that his wife was a witch and had murdered his son. Until he pulled his younger son's headless body from the water behind his house, he had no idea. Then, for the first time, he began to take the priest's words seriously, and unwillingly, he began to distrust his wife. On that day, I was sitting in my house sorrowful after performing my son's final rites. My wife was also seated next to me. At that time, I was remembering the words of the pastor while staring at my wife. My wife was watching my eldest daughter's room. When I saw this, my mind was filled with fear because questions had settled in my mind and I was simply sitting there watching one of my children die. I didn't want anything to happen to my other child. I told my wife that we couldn't keep our daughter in the house any longer. She is not safe here. My doubts about my wife and my faith in the priest's remarks grew stronger after hearing what she told me. Why? My wife asks. Why aren't you able to keep her here? I stated that whatever killed our son may possibly hurt our daughter here, and I don't want to lose another kid of mine. She stated that there is no need to do so because everything will be okay in a matter of days. I asked, what do you mean it's only a matter of days? On this, she became agitated and stated, I mean, in a few days, the police will find that criminal and then we will be safe again. As a father, I was concerned for my child, but as a mother, I did not sense that care in her. When I looked at her, it seemed as if she wanted our daughter to stay in that house at any cost. But I ignored her and took my daughter to my sister's house. I also invited my wife to accompany me to my sister's place, but she said nothing and just stood there staring at us. I then informed her that I would be running late and would instead be spending the night at my sister's house. That is the reason I'm asking you to accompany me. She responded that she is fine here. After hearing this, I responded, okay, I'll arrive tomorrow as early as I can. Today, take care of yourself. I then took my daughter and left from there after stating this. When I was driving with my daughter told me, Papa, I don't know why, but I feel unusual discomfort and fear from being with my mother right now. She had been staring at us in a peculiar way for a few days. I asked her, why do you feel like that, Ava? On this, she stated, Papa, I don't know why, but Mother has begun doing strange things since that day when we got home from school when we felt her more beautiful in the morning. Hearing this from my daughter, I felt quite strange and I quickly questioned her. What strange things is your mother doing? She stated, Mother used to lick us with her tongue as if we were food for her and she was some kind of beast. When we were with her, she kept staring at us, which made me feel uneasy. I was terrified of those eyes of hers. Hearing this from my daughter, my faith in the pastor's words grew stronger, and instead of leaving my sister's house, I left my daughter with a friend nearby and immediately proceeded to my residence to follow my wife as instructed by the pastor. I parked my car a little further away from the house and strolled carefully towards it. I waited for my wife to leave the house while standing in the bushes some distance from my home. The thought once crossed my mind. Would she have left before I arrived, or had I not delayed in coming? Therefore, occasionally the pastor's remarks began to ruminate in my thoughts. Just now that I was thinking that, I saw my wife leaving the house. I began to follow her as well. What I witnessed after only a short stroll filled my eyes with terror. I noticed she had transformed into another woman. Her legs were folded and her hair was unkempt, and she was screaming extremely loud. And when she was crying, only one thing was said.
One of my good prey has escaped from my grasp.
I was looking at that dreadful sight, hiding behind the same bushes when she abruptly turned and glanced back. She sounded as if she heard some bushes move. Looking directly behind her, my entire body was seized with horror because when she looked back, her neck was back, but her entire body was forward, and her eyes were bloodshot, as though she was on the lookout for someone. Then a rabbit appeared from the bushes. When she saw the rabbit, she pounced on him and began gnawing on him raw. I was stuck with panic when I saw this scenario, but I gently departed while taking care of myself. And I was thinking of all this when I suddenly appeared on the road in front of your car. Hearing this from Benjamin, my hair stood on end, and I realized that this man had been captured by a vast evil power, which is threatening the life of his family. Hearing his state and what had occurred to him now, my mind decided that I would not leave him alone in this war, and that I would also assist him in getting out of this crisis. After listening to Benjamin, I told him about myself and vowed to assist him in his situation. Hearing this, Benjamin asked, "How would you assist us in all of this?" I told him that, in this state, I would be unable to tell you anything right now. But yes, I can try to save you from all of these problems. But first, we must wait until daylight. It's late at night, and I am unable to take you to your home until we develop a plan for dealing with the demon because it is unsafe to do so. As we waited for morning, I immediately drove Benjamin to the same priest who had advised him of all of these things. When the priest noticed Benjamin there, he replied, "Now that you know the truth." When Benjamin heard this, he sobbed and begged the father to pardon him so that he might rescue his family and himself from their current predicament. Benjamin continued by asking, "Father, what happened to my wife? Did the same witch kill her as well?" "No," he replied. "Although your wife has already passed away, the witch has taken over her body and plans to sacrifice you and your daughter on the night of the full moon." Hearing this, Benjamin became terrified and began asking the priest, "Father, what should we do now? Please, suggest a solution." "Don't worry," the priest said. "You invite me to dinner today, but keep in mind that your wife should not be made aware of this." Benjamin said, "Please come today. You both are now my only source of support." Looking at me, the priest inquired, "Who is this boy?" "He is my friend, and he also wants to help me. Thus, he is with me." "Don't worry," the priest replied. "I will absolutely come." The priest now instructed Benjamin to return to his home and act normal. On this, Benjamin stated, "I will do as you say." And I dropped Benjamin off at his place. One thing that bothered me here was that the night of the full moon was tonight, and that witch was going to sacrifice Benjamin today. And perhaps the pastor should not have told Benjamin about this since it would have worried him even more, and then our plan would not be jeopardized. The priest told him that he would arrive at his residence late at night. When Benjamin and his wife were sleeping in the room at night, his wife got up and went outdoors, just like the other night. Benjamin came out of his home after his wife had departed and brought the pastor and me in. The priest began his preparations after arriving. After a while, the priest began to pray some mantras. Amelia came running towards the priest, shouting outside because the priest's prayer had such strength. As soon as Amelia entered the house, she began shouting extremely loud and telling Benjamin in a very frightening voice that, "You did not act properly. I will not leave anyone. I'm going to drink everyone's blood today." Her scream was so powerful that we thought the mountain would close our ears. She returned to her previous form because the priest's prayers had caused her so much grief. The priest then told the witch, "Satan, calm down. Otherwise, I will immediately send you to hell." When she heard this, she burst out laughing and yelled angrily, "You can't hurt me. You too will perish at my hands." And then she went to assassinate Benjamin. As soon as she arrived at Benjamin, the priest sprayed holy water on her, causing her skin to burn. She glared angrily at the priest and yelled, causing the priest to flee and hit the wall. Because of the night of the full moon, she was far more powerful than we realized at the time. When he hit the wall, the priest went temporarily unconscious. As a result, we temporarily lost control of the witch. And now, she laughs at us with bloodshot eyes before slaughtering Benjamin. She threw me away with one of her blows as soon as I moved forward to stop her. Now that there was no one between Benjamin and her, she grabbed Benjamin's neck, lifted him up, and burst out laughing. Benjamin was still in the priest's hands, and he was still unconscious. Then she told Benjamin, "You know how I killed your son. Listen, I tore his neck with these jaws of mine before swallowing his soft head. After drinking his delicious blood, I dumped his body in the pond behind your house like waste. You all have to die on this day, but he died earlier. He came after me that night and saw me in this form. That's why I killed your son. You want to see your son scold? Tell me. Want to see? Watch carefully." She put her hand in her mouth and took out a child's rotten skull and held it in her hand while speaking to Benjamin. "Look at your son's head." And as soon as she said that, she burst out laughing. When Benjamin saw this, he became angry and began beating her. But it seemed as if his blows had no effect on the witch. Seeing this, I realized that this isn't such a devil. But in order to deal with it, we'll have to use some different tactics. As I previously stated, I am a paranormal investigator, but I am much more than that. My father was a great occultist, and he had given me some things to use in times when we were caught in some supernatural crisis from which we couldn't get out. It was finally time for me to put that thing to use. The unique feature of this locket was that whoever wore it gained such vision and power that he could see things that no ordinary person could see with his own eyes. And he could keep any soul close to him in his body via the locket without having been possessed by that spirit. As a result, the wearer of this locket had unlimited power. This was the first time I used my locket in this manner. First, I held my locket and chanted a mantra taught to me by my father. After that, it was as if a different power began to operate within me. And the moment I opened my eyes, I could see the souls of his wife and child right behind Benjamin, attempting to force him to fight the witch, but their spirits were unable to reach him. That is when I used my locket to summon their souls into my body. As soon as I said this, it was as if the locket summoned them, and those souls rushed towards me and entered my body through my locket. It was as if a wonderful energy began to flow inside my body as soon as they entered my body. When the witch saw this, she immediately made Benjamin sit on the ground, and as soon as she opened her mouth to kill, in the blink of an eye, I made a blow on her, due to which she fell straight and fell outside, breaking the wall of the house. It was astounding to notice my body's strength and agility. I could also sense Benjamin's wife and son's rage at the witch, who tried to harm her family. When the witch stood up again, I slammed her to the ground with a kick to the face. She began to scream in agony. Meanwhile, the pastor regained consciousness and began reciting his mantras. Soon, a fire began to burn within that witch. As a result, she began to cry in pain. The priest then questioned, "Who are you, and who brought you here?" The witch claimed that, "I had arrived from a nearby deserted graveyard and discovered that his wife had died. Then I entered her body and waited for the night of the full moon so that I can slaughter them all and drink their blood." The priest then stated that, "The true home of a devil like you is in hell." And he began intensifying the mantra so that the witch began to burn with smoke and was reduced to ashes within a few minutes. After that witch died, Benjamin's wife and son emerged from my locket and flew to heaven. The priest then placed the ashes in a bottle, carried it with him, and buried it in the church grounds so that the witch cannot harm anyone else. Benjamin thanked me once everything was completed. I then told him to take care of himself and his daughter before getting into my car and driving away to my next destination. Hello there. I hope you enjoyed this series. If you want to see more videos like this in the future, please like the video, share it with your friends and family, and help us reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Because this series cannot continue without your help and love. The more you enjoy this series, the more motivated we will be to continue it. We are confident that you will assist us in reaching our first milestone of 100,000 subscribers for our channel, and without your support, we cannot achieve it. Thank you to everyone who has supported us and shown us so much love. Until then, bye-bye. Stay safe